Hello, people. Welcome back to another response video by your good friend Chad Marco. You know, the 32-year-old virgin video did some pretty decent numbers, so I thought I would respond to more of these comments directly. And so, yeah, we're just going to get into that. We're going to have a little fun and hope you guys just sit back and let's talk. So, Wake Up the Flood says, dude, you're a funny, smart, good-looking, curious guy. What the fuck? Get you some punani. I feel like you guys give me too much credit, you know. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm an awesome motherfucker, but I'm just, for whatever reason, I'm just lacking in what it is that makes men attractive to women. And I think it's really just that simple. Now, obviously, I don't really try, so that's half of it as well. But at the same time, I just know that there are some guys who just have it. Some guys just have a natural attractive pull when it comes to women. And I don't have that, you know? And I think that's one thing that people just kind of got to understand. I think you guys, you look at me from a different perspective because one, you know so much about me. But I think you're not really factoring in hoflation. Right, and just what the dating game has become. You know, I think the little bit that I have to offer a woman just doesn't mean much when the average 5 or 6 can get with a guy that's taller than me, got a big dick, dating experience, a job, money, more status. Like every decent looking girl has options that are much better than me. So again, it's like it's just not this simple thing of like, oh, just go get the pussy. Like, it's the dating game is it's very harsh right now. And so just there to comment, don't want 685 says, why do you still want to be involved with 19-year-olds at 32 is a question you should be asking yourself. That's crazy. I'm 34 and I barely want to hear from anyone under 25. Well, I mean, I think the obvious thing, and you know, this might make me sound a bit shallow or superficial, but you know, Iris is a young woman entering into like the prime of her life. You know, like why wouldn't you want a woman that's young and attractive to you and has a lot of youthful years ahead of her? Like, that's the common sense answer. But I get what you're trying to say, the maturity gap. But I think the thing about that is you kind of got to look at it on a case-by-case basis, because you don't just become mature, or really just say, because we're looking at it like, oh, she's 19, she's going to be annoying, right? But you can be annoying at any age. It's like, I listen to my mom sometimes, and I love my mom to death, but I listen to her and her female friends, and these are all older women. I'd be listening to them. I'd be like, how do their husbands stand this shit? How can you stand to live? Right? Like, sometimes I just listen and it's like, man, this is what men deal with being married, like just nagging and nagging, you know. And so what I'm saying, again, you gotta look at it on a case-by-case basis. When I interacted with Iris, she didn't annoy me at all, right? She might have been significantly younger, but I didn't find her to be particularly annoying. She was very soft-spoken and just kind of a very subtle person, right? And so that's why I could kind of see us peacefully coexisting regardless of the age gap. But again, I see what you're saying, that the assumption that because someone is younger, they're going to be an annoyance, and the assumption that because somebody is older that they're not. But that's just not always the case. You can be 30, 35, 40 and be an annoying ass immature bitch. You can be 19, 20, 21 and just have the type of personality and energy where you're not so annoying, right? And then you guys can have shared, yeah, I mean, come on now. But with Iris, you know, not only did I find her attractive, but I could see us peacefully coexisting. We had shared interests. We had, or at least what I perceive to be compatibility. Don't make me cry. But again, there was a lot there to be desired, right? But most importantly, I just did not see her as being like particularly annoying because of her younger age. Pazuzu says, I'm 37, bow before me insects. I'm not quite intimidated, right? You got to hit 40 for me to show respect at this point. You know, I'm quite the veteran myself. I would say we're both veterans, right, at our ages. And so, oh, okay. So he says 6:53, I could transition. Oh, that's a training joke. I got you. But then he says, jokes aside, I've had a small modicum of success stories, but no long-term relationships. So as I approach 30, I can see the horizon of aging out very clearly. Looks like I'm going to turn out like one of my father's many uncles instead of the old man himself. So it seems like he's had some success as far as like probably hooking up or, just getting with a girl real quick here and there, but not a long-term relationship, which is really, I think, what a lot of guys like us want. I don't really think of losing my virginity in terms of, I just want to lose it real quick to some random. I always think about it in terms of, if I do lose it, I want it to be with somebody that I'm in a relationship with, somebody that I like, somebody that, I feel is, not only attractive, but a good person. Right. And I think that's really what we would hope for. Right. But yeah, the whole idea of aging out is a real thing, and so that's why you got to know who you are. And you got to know how dedicated you are to the path of wizardry. I accepted it. I'm cool with it because you guys know, like, I chose this life. But I think for a lot of guys, they wanted something different. And if you want something different, then you're going to have to do something. And so Aaron Spencer, 30, says, I'm a 45-year-old and still single, never been on a date or had a girlfriend and never had sex. And when I see stuff like this, and I don't know if I got this comment, but there was another guy who commented something similar. But you're seeing a lot more guys in situations like this, right? Guys, obviously like mid-20s, but even like 30s and 40s, guys who are like virgins and never had sex, never been in a relationship. And it does seem to be just becoming like this, common thing. Not saying that like the average guy is going through this. Don't get me wrong. But I do think there's a shift in our culture, in our society, that's allowing more men to become like this. And I think that it differs because you have guys like myself who, quite frankly, chose to embrace virginity and chose to be single. Well, when I say chose, it won't like I had bad bitches on me or nothing like that. But for me, I would say my preference was I'd rather be a single virgin than to put in the effort necessary to get it, right? And I'm happy with that decision. But I think on the other side, and on my side, just going back real quick, because I think I kind of represent the MGTOW Vocel side of things. But you also have the other side of guys who want it, but they can't get it for whatever reason. Maybe they lacking in confidence. Maybe they feel like they have the physical or certain traits, lack of money, they don't allow them to have the kind of options that they want, right? But it does seem to be like this weird trend that we're seeing in different societies. And so it's a drill 8766 says, I feel like you're coping a bit with how you feel since you just repeat the same thing over and over again about how you feel. And I feel like I kind of have to. And like just as an example, what I'm talking about, I remember when I made a post on Instagram and it was like this "that feel with no girlfriend" type post, right? Because you guys know how I lean into the sad boy shit sometimes. And my real life friend came over and he was like, dude, I saw that post and I was just bugging, like, but he was basically saying like he was semi worried because he thought I was being serious, right? And the whole post was meant to be tongue in cheek. But then when he came over, he saw me like I'm sitting here chilling, working out, drinking ice water and shit. Like, man, this dude, all right. But the point is, though, even with this video, when you're talking about a subject like this, I think it's very easy for people to get the wrong idea because this is supposed to be like a tragedy, right? Oh, you're aging out of young love, right? This is supposed to be like some super bad thing. And for me, it's just like, just part of the process, right? It's part of the path that I chose to walk. And I've always felt like when you're talking about being happy as a virgin, happy as someone who's single, I just feel like a lot of people just aren't going to believe you no matter what you say or what you do. You know, it's much like the whole thing about when people say you can't be happy without kids. It don't matter what you say or what you do, they're never gonna believe you. So I feel like whether or not people believe me, it's more so based on what they believe as opposed to what I'm doing, right? Like I think if you don't believe me, you're probably somebody that just, you don't believe people can be happy single or as a virgin anyway. But if you do believe me, you probably experienced it for yourself or you understand where I'm coming from. And I remember one time, because we talked about this before a while ago when I was on stream, and I was talking about how I know a lot of people are not gonna believe, you know, that I'm happy as someone who's single and as a virgin. And this one guy, I forgot who it was, but bless his heart, he said, dude, it's so obvious that you're happy as fuck, right? Like your energy is bleeding through the damn screen and all that shit. And I felt good about that because I felt like a lot of people, I mean, not like it really matters whether people believe me or not, but I just felt like a lot of people wouldn't believe that I was able to achieve such a high level of happiness as someone who's never been in a relationship and someone who's never had sex, because so much value is placed on that, you know. And I don't want to sit here and act like I'm just immune to any desire or feels towards women. You know, I get that feel with no girlfriend sometimes. I see girls that are cute and, you know, it's like, right? You know, the whole Iris situation, I really like Iris and all that. But the main thing about me is that not having a girlfriend or being a virgin has never got in the way of me being happy. And I think that's the important thing. It's never got in the way of me enjoying life. It's like I could go out today, go to the gym and see a very attractive woman, right? Oh, that feel with no girlfriend. But then I go back home. Wait a minute, I'm working on some music. I got a dope beat I'm cooking up, right? I get on stream. My homies get on stream. We're chit chat talking about the game and shit. You know, I spend some time with my family. I get on the workout and eat some good food, chill out, watch some anime, make another song, right? And then it's like, wait a minute. Like, all I had to do was get back focused on what I love about life. And that's really what it comes down to. Is like, even if you don't have this or that, if you pay attention, you have so much about your life to be thankful for, so many things in your life that you can enjoy. And that's why I'm okay with being single. That's why I'm okay with being a virgin, because these are just a few things that I don't have compared to all the things that I do have and that I can appreciate and does make my life enjoyable and worth living. And so Nebula ZV2, y'all got some crazy names. Hey Marco, I think you should make a Discord server for us needs to get together. And I got a Discord server, but I got to open it back up. And it's opening up very soon. Okay, so we got a couple comments here. I'm going to give some quick answers. New Life 4830 says, bro, even your name is Chad. You can make it. To be fair, that's my rap alias, and that came from my Fallout 3 character. You guys know the story. RJGN6GI says, why don't you just Thug Max? And I mean, come on, dude. Like, I'm assuming he's being like tongue in cheek saying that. But you know what? Real shit. A lot of girls, you know, they like thugs. They like the gangster type. They like the roughneck. I think that would definitely help, but it's not worth the trouble. I got a friend now who's about to go back to prison over some bullshit, and you know that whole Thug Match thing. I feel like it shouldn't even have to be said, but it's a terrible idea, because even though you will appeal to a certain demographic of women, you know, the type of woman that just likes those types of guys, the whole lifestyle is just so self-destructive. It's a lifestyle of violence, a lifestyle of crime, loss of freedom. You know, death is around every corner. You have all these beefs and whatnot. It's just, again, it should not have to be said, but being a thug, being a tough guy and all that shit, it's just not worth it. Video by Sam says, why not just pay? And I made a whole video talking about this, but you gotta look at the context of this video in particular, right? This wasn't like a negative video. It wasn't meant to be like, oh my God, I'm 32-year-old virgin. This is like, oh, this is a transitional period for me. So I think paying is basically when you're desperate, right? When you want it bad. I don't want it that bad, right? Like I don't even want it bad enough to put in the bare minimum amount of effort. But also when you're paying for it, and maybe this is just me being all lovey-dovey and shit, but I would, if I'm gonna have sex, I want it to be with somebody who wants to have sex with me. I feel like when you have to pay for it up front and there is no like just mutual desire, like the desire isn't mutual, you're basically paying somebody who doesn't like you to fuck you. And it's just like, I don't want to have sex with somebody who doesn't like me, basically. And so Darius explains the red pillars lied. Men don't peak in their 30s or 40s. They just get used for money more. Everyone peaks in their mid 20s. Only top tier men who already wanted slay as they get older. I kind of disagree. I feel like if you're looking at it purely from the perspective of physical attractiveness, then I would agree. Like both men and women tend to peak physically somewhere around our 20s. But even then, you have outlier cases where, like, just for instance, if you were overweight as a teenager going into your 20s, then you could look better in your 30s than in your 20s, like losing weight. Or maybe you didn't know how to dress. Or maybe your personality needed some sculpting, right? Like maybe you were too introverted, or maybe you didn't have the confidence. So you can peak later, but that's based on if you didn't reach your full potential within your 20s. And again, we're specifically mostly talking about looks here, right? But within the red pill space, when guys say that, what they're saying is that as a man gets older, you do have the ability to acquire more resources, life experiences, cultivation of your character and personality and status that would allow you to grow your dating options exponentially compared to what you had in your 20s or whatever. Like, just for instance, like look at some of these guys, like content creators like DJ Academics or Fresh and Fit. Now, I'm not saying these guys didn't have bitches before they were famous or had money, but obviously they have a lot more options in their 30s than they did in their now I don't know the timeline of their acquisition of wealth, but I'm just assuming, right, that these guys kind of really started coming to their own, entering into like their 30s and whatnot, right? But you can use other people as an example too. But you can see how these guys' options grew exponentially as they became more successful, as they became more wealthy compared to what they would have had in their 20s or whatever. And now the thing you say here, they get used for money more, you can't just write off the money aspect because it's too important. Like you can't just say, oh, well, it doesn't count because it's money. Money always matters. Now, don't get me wrong. You definitely have a subset of men who are just so physically attractive that they don't need money. But even when you look at the average guy, like money is going to be a factor when it comes to his relationships. Like just think about a woman in a relationship, or especially in a marriage. How many women are going to be okay dating or being married to a guy that doesn't have money or resources? You take that out of the equation, the guy being in his peak physical condition is not going to compensate for that if a woman is looking for a serious relationship. The fact is, whether people like it or not, women select not just based on how you look. They select based on your resources. They select based on your status, and they select based on your personality as well. And even though we peak physically in our 20s, your personality, your status, and your money can grow exponentially going into your 30s and 40s. And that's why they say that. That's why they say men peak in their 30s and 40s, because you do have the option to be a lot more attractive overall going into those ages if you do the work, if you're able to achieve some sort of like super level of growth. But I will say this, right? Most guys are not going to do that. That's the truth. Most guys are not going to undergo some extreme transformation that's going to, grow their wealth and their status to the point where they're like Andrew Tate or Fresh and Fit or Kevin Samuels, whatever the case may be, right? Pick your favorite celebrity. Most guys are not going to be able to pull that off. Like, let's just be real about that. Most guys are going to peak in there to, like, the average guy is going to peak in there to, and even then that peak probably wasn't much, right? It's kind of like, you look at me, right? Let's say I physically peaked at 25. I still didn't have shit, right? But if out of nowhere I started making more money or had more status, I could have more dating options at my current age and beyond than I ever did in my peak 20. That's what I'm saying. The whole peak, the physical peak of the average man doesn't really mean much compared to what you can do. But again, let's be real. Most guys are not going to do that. Most guys are not going to undergo that kind of transformation. And so RJGN6G1 or God, I hate that name. I'm going to call you RJ, says, I feel very ugly and that no girls like me. That's how I feel too, though. I don't feel ugly, right? I like the way I look. I feel good about myself. But when you don't have any sort of like as positive experiences with women, I think it's just inevitable that you'll feel that way, And it's kind of like what the guy was saying earlier. Right? He said, oh, you're not a bad looking guy. You got this, you got that. Go get some pussy. But I think you kind of need the experiences to back it up, or you're going to feel like I don't think, like, it's not going to matter how much I grow, how much I develop, and how much I achieve for myself. I'm never going to have confidence with women unless I have some sort of like experience. So I wouldn't say I feel ugly, but I still feel like, in my mind, and when it comes to women, I still feel like I'm that weird, smelly kid. SN Vale says, when it's so over, you're just happy to be done. And that's really what the video was kind of about too, right? Because it's like, it is a significant milestone to go from, early 20s virgin single guy to early 30s and whatnot. And like, just kind of realizing that you're in a completely different space in terms of dating dynamics. And because even as someone who is fine with being single, you always have that voice in the back of your head that something could happen, that something might happen. And I think now that voice is getting quieter. Right? That voice is getting quieter and quieter, right? Like that faint glimmer of hope that something could happen. It's definitely going to get smaller and smaller as you get older. And I think that's in a way it's kind of comforting. It is kind of comforting because, throughout my life, I've kind of had to consciously beat that part of my head down, right? Like that glimmer of hope, I had to shut up, like smack him, shut up, beat him up, and shit like that. But now it's I don't know, it's weird. Like it is like it's a weird comfort. It's hard to explain, but it's a weird comfort when you reach this particular point, right? Because it does kind of feel like when the option isn't even there, right? It's less to worry about. P Froggy 23 says, it's not over. I just turned 32, no wife or kids, and I had to recently get a part-time fast food gig for extra cash. Younger coworkers, 1924, are definitely more open to dating you at 32 than when you were at their ages. It's weird. Now, maybe you're just more attractive, right? Let's throw that in there. But, I'm not getting any more attention at 32 than in fact, I would say I feel like I get less overall, because I remember in my 20s, I would like occasionally, I don't want to make it seem like this was happening all the time, but I do remember in my 20s, I would occasionally have these situations where it seemed like a girl was interested or something, right? Basically choosing signals, and nothing extreme. There were like a few cases, like the cashier girl. We all know that story. but most of them just very subtle interactions and shit like that. Nothing crazy, don't get me wrong, and it was very few and far in between. But I've noticed in recent years that doesn't really happen as much. I think it's only happened like one time, and it was like some fat white girl or some shit like that. But it could be an exposure thing too, right? Because you said this happens when you got your job, so that could be the case too. But even still though, I'm not saying that like it's an impossibility. I'm just saying that it's a different dynamic as you get older. And it's like the dynamic is no longer, oh, we're two young people together going through our 20s together. Like, even if you do get that younger girl, now it's the dynamic of younger woman, older man, right? This is daddy. Like, it's a different dynamic no matter how you look at it, even if you manage to pull it off. And on top of that, you know, there are going to be a significant amount of girls who simply just are not going to go for the age gap, right? And so the one who stands above all, damn, says, these comments are saddening. Y'all fellas get out there and live life. This is coming from a nerd. Now, I look at it differently because, again, I'm an embracer of virginity, an embracer of the wizard life. But I got to keep in mind, a lot of guys aren't like myself. A lot of guys aren't just embracing the shit the way I have. And so for them, yeah, maybe they need to go out and maybe they need to go out and make some things happen before it's too late. But I just look at it a bit differently because I actually chose this life. But I will say in general, and this could apply to all of us, whether you're a vocel, incel, MGTOW, or just unfortunate virgin, right? I think a lot of times, a lot of us, we have kind of live introverted, secluded type lives. Like, we haven't done a lot as far as like socializing and doing things like that. It's like, I ran into this older guy and he's a runner, right? And he see me running around town and he was like, man, like you need to get out of Rocky Mount. You know, you could run some 5Ks or 10Ks or half marathon, whatever. Like, he was just telling me how he does, like, he goes to running competitions and shit. And he was just telling me like how, you know, all you do is run around town. You could be doing more. Like, you could be in like a running club or something. You could be you know, doing these little, you know, not competing at a high level, but you know how people have like those little mini marathons or shit like that, you know, where old white people be running this shit. But yeah, he was basically just telling me, man, like, you could be doing more, right, than just settling for running around town. And I kind of took that to heart, right? Because he had a point that, you know, there's so much more that we could be doing with what interests we have, and not just with me and the running thing, but like even the music, right? How I don't really collaborate or expand on the music beyond just, you know, occasionally uploading for you guys, you know. And I feel like had I done more of that, maybe things would have been different on the dating end as well, because it was never that I was against dating. You know, I just didn't want, quite frankly, I just didn't want it bad enough to work for it. I just didn't want it bad enough to play the game. And so I was just okay with being single. But maybe had I put myself out there more, and I don't mean like trying to get women, but just doing more in terms of life in general, maybe something would have just happened. Without me having to even try. And so Yosher Palooza says, realistically, you can go 24, 35 age range at your age. I mean, yeah, that too. But see, this is the problem. Once you start getting to around like the 25 age range, the number of women who don't have kids, at least in my community, remember, I'm black and I live in the black community, it's difficult to find older black women, because that, let's be real, that's my primary demographic. That's what I'm mostly exposed to. It's hard to find older black women who are attractive and don't have kids. We gotta be real about that shit. And so it's kind of like this thing where the younger you go, obviously there's the issue of the age gap and the difficulties of navigating around that, if she's even willing to look past it. But as you get older, to that 24, 25 range, now you're saying, now you got to find somebody who's single, right? Remember, not only as you get older do women start having children, they also just in general start getting paired up more, right? If like maybe they'll get married, be in a long-term relationship, things like that. So it really is, no matter how you look at it, it's just a more difficult situation to be in. And especially, again, I'm 32, right? So let's 5-year age for age range it, right? Let's say what 27 to 33, right? Or something like that. No, 30, it'll be 37. No, 27 to 32, right? That's 5 years. Dude, you attractive black woman, no kids, not gonna have. And I think it goes without saying, but I'm not dealing with somebody who got kids, right? And so right there, like that's gonna already fuck me as far as like dating options. So again, I see what you're saying, but the problem is in the black community, especially. I don't know how it is in the white community. I know white women, they do that weird shit where they freeze their eggs and they want to have careers. It seemed like black women would just go ahead and just get pregnant and have a baby daddy and like have some kids and then still try to go to nursing school or some shit like that, or do something later. But yeah, it seems like I don't very often see women around my age who are single, attractive, and don't have kids. And that's it. So that was the comments for the 32-year-old virgin video. I hope you guys enjoyed that, and I will see you on the next. So, Johnny.